Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. We have got a ton of stories to dive into with all of you, including just in the last 45 minutes or so, Tulsi Gabbard has just thrown a ton of bombs inside of the White House, metaphorically speaking, about the 2016 Russia hoax and what the intelligence communities knew and when they knew it. And I want to dive into that. I want to talk about the significance. Also, Mamdani, who is in Uganda right now. I've got a thesis as polls continue to come out on what I would argue is one of the biggest races that will take place this year, maybe the biggest, New York City mayor. Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo from The Cosby Show, Theo Huxtable, died. And it has me thinking, even before he died, about pop culture and where we've gone. Stephen Colbert versus South Park. Sonny Hostin with a crazy take. Go figure. An Ole Miss football recruit was killed in Memphis. I have thoughts about that. U.S. Olympics has banned men and women's sports and more. But I want to start with Tulsi. Let me just be clear about this. What an incredible communication example Tulsi just put on, walking through all of the evidence that her team has uncovered from inside of the intelligence agencies, which, according to her, prove that Obama knew the allegation that Russia had hacked the election was false and that the evidence did not actually support that. And she says it was potentially a treasonous conspiracy that was entered into surrounding all of those revelations, which I would encourage you to seek out on your own, watch, think about, contemplate, analyze, as I would tell you to do any complicated story. Here is what I believe is going to be the likely outcome, and I don't know how many other people are going to eventually get to this or how long it's going to take. I believe that in the event there were charges brought, Tulsi Gabbard says she has referred all of this information to the Department of Justice. There are several challenges associated with it. First, charges would probably have to be brought in Washington, D.C., in federal court there. You are dealing with an overwhelmingly Democrat, potentially grand jury that would be seated there. It would be hard, I think, to get a grand jury to indict the Barack Obama administration and Obama himself for anything, because it is overwhelmingly a Democrat jurisdiction and a Democrat playing field. The advantage that Democrats have when it comes to criminal prosecutions in Washington, D.C., is frankly almost unmatched by Republicans anywhere in the country, because you're talking about a jury pool that is a 95-5 Democrat-inspired jury pool that frankly does not like Donald Trump. So I think the challenges of getting indictments relating to anything in the Obama administration is first the forum that you have to go through in Washington, D.C. Are there opportunities to bring these charges in other districts? I think it will be hard because Obama lives in D.C. still, and he was also president at the time that many of these actions occurred. So, one, I think, again, this is legal analysis. This is not political analysis. One, I think getting an indictment would be hard. Two, and this is super ironic, Obama would be able to cite the Supreme Court decisions that gave expansive presidential power to Trump relating to all of the actions that directly implicated his tenure in office. He would be able to cite those as evidence of why his actions in 2016 were within the province of his presidential powers. In other words, investigating whether Russia was involved in the 2016 election is arguably well within the province of expected presidential powers, and making a determination based on the evidence presented as to what that evidence showed is also well within the province of presidential powers. Much like the Supreme Court said, hey, in 2020, When Trump wanted an investigation into the 2020 election, he was acting within his presidential powers. So you have the indictment challenge, but then also, and I told all of you this, and I don't even know how many people have recognized it because everybody's so polarized right now, Supreme Court precedents exist typically long after everybody on the Supreme Court who puts them in place is gone. So expansive presidential powers are going to be favorable for Trump, but they're also going to be favorable for Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton. Any living president, past or in the future, is going to have the same expansive penumbra of presidential powers in place. So I think the challenge here, legally, again, there's a difference between the legal and the political. Legally, I think bringing charges against Obama and others in his orbit is going to be challenging based on the grand jury and also what is likely to be an argument that would immediately be, hey, even if I did this, this is within the presidential powers. Also legally, Tulsi Gabbard said she believed that Obama knew that the allegations he was making about Russian conspiracy was false. Knowledge is very hard to prove. Knowledge is very hard to prove. Usually, in order to convict somebody of a crime, in general, there are two parts to every crime. Actus rea, that is, you did something, and mens rea, that is, you intended to do that thing. Proving that Obama knew these intelligence reports were false and intentionally manipulated them in a way that he knew was false is a very big challenge from a legal perspective. Okay, that is one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is the political and also the historical. And that is where I think Tulsi Gabbard is doing a phenomenal job. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, that Trump had the entire intelligence apparatus arrayed against him, that the Russian collusion lie, not only that did Russia try to influence the race? Yes, of course. Russia has tried to influence every presidential race that has existed for my life or your life. That's what foreign actors who don't like the United States do. China tried to influence our elections, I'm sure. And oh, by the way, we're not doing this with clean hands. The United States probably, more than almost any country in the world, tries to influence elections around the world, right? So we are doing what we claim others are doing too. That's what counterintelligence and intelligence gathering is. So yes, I'm sure that Russia tried to influence the election. But they were far more successful in sowing distrust of American institutions than probably they ever believed they could be. They didn't do anything to change the outcome of the election, but that narrative was embedded. Trump had to fight it throughout his first term, and it set the table for 2020 because of the Russia collusion lie, they were then able, Democrats and their media allies, to argue when Hunter Biden was dead to rights committing all these crimes on his laptop, that laptop had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, and they protected Biden by saying, hey, this is just Russia trying to influence the 2020 election just like they did the 2016 election. They used Russia as the cover for all of the Biden crime families by arguing that it wasn't actually real. It's really pretty diabolical, honestly, when you really dive into it and look at it. Also, if you're at the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, the CNN, MSNBC, you should return all of the Pulitzer Prizes that you guys awarded to yourself for 100% fake news. All of these people bought the manufactured lie of Russia collusion, and then they gave all the reporters who wrote about it Pulitzer Prizes. It's one of the damnedest things I've ever seen. They haven't rescinded the Pulitzer Prizes at all, even though it is now clear that those reporters were played like a fiddle by left-wingers who wanted to delegitimize Trump's victory by arguing it was all a product of Russia collusion. The fact that nothing has happened there and it has continued to be allowed is bonkers to me. So that is my take on the Tulsi-related issues that are out there right now. I'm sure that we will be talking more about this going forward. Okay. In the meantime, and by the way, I want the historic record cleared. I want it to be taught as accurate history going forward, and that's why I think this is actually so consequential. Okay. Our friend Sonny Hostin had an unbelievably insane, moronic argument. She came out, I believe this was either today or yesterday, I'm not sure which day, on The View and said that it was a threat to our Constitution if Stephen Colbert was not allowed to continue his comedy show on CBS. She really said this. Watch.
It could be financial, and I don't know that it's purely political. It could be, but my concern is if it is political, then everyone should be concerned. People on the right should be concerned. People on the left should be concerned, because it's very clear that if it is political, this is the dismantling of our democracy. This is the dismantling of our Constitution, right? And so the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and that is freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to speak truth to power. If that is taken away, if the comedians are being attacked, then that means our Constitution is being dismantled. That's right. That means the very rubric of our democracy is being dismantled. And I think every single person should be really, really concerned about it. I'm thrilled that Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, Senator Bernie Sanders is asking Skydance, is asking for answers whether or not this was political. The Writers Guild is actually asking the Attorney General to look into this situation to find out if it was political. And if we find out it is political, what are we going to do as a country? We must protect our Constitution and we must protect our democracy. I think this is bigger than just the cancellation of a television show.
I think it's great.
This is crazy because, I mean, it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how the First Amendment works, how our Constitution works. No one is stopping Stephen Colbert from saying whatever awful things he wants to say about President Trump. No one is stopping him from making jokes. He can open a Twitter account. He can start a podcast. He can open a YouTube channel. By the way, thank you. Please click like and subscribe. Go give us good questions. I am responding to them every single day. Thank you all who are OutKick YouTube subscribers. Nothing is preventing Stephen Colbert from sharing his opinion. CBS is not obligated to have to pay Stephen Colbert tens of millions of dollars and lose tens of millions of dollars on his show because they're a business that ostensibly exists to make money. iHeart doesn't have to distribute Clay and Buck. OutKick doesn't have to distribute this show. I can speak as loudly as I would like wherever I may go, and that's not being restricted. I've got a new book coming out in November. Nobody had to publish that book. I can speak as loudly as I possibly can. Usually in media, you are employed and your employer tries to make as much money off of you as they can. This is very basic economics. And there's actually a really good example that happened almost around the same time. I don't know if we have a graphic of this. South Park is a show that is distributed by Paramount, the parent company that also distributes The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Reportedly, the South Park creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, just got a 5-year, $1.5 billion deal. And we're going to pop this up so you can see it. Paramount is choosing to give billions of dollars to the creators of South Park because they are presumably making more money than that with comedic attacks on basically everybody. Meanwhile, Stephen Colbert, they are canceling because they are losing tens of millions of dollars. I would submit to you that Paramount is making an eminently rational decision. They are giving money to the comics that make them money, and they are replacing the comic that loses them money. That's basic economics. I think we got another graphic up here. This is from Variety. Adam, text me exactly what that says because I can't read it. It's too far away. But it's amazing how few people understand basic economics. If The View gets canceled one day by ABC News, I would bet to you that it's because they are not making money anymore. If Clay and Buck got canceled tomorrow, I wouldn't come out and say, hey, by the way, this is a function of me being discriminated against because of my opinions. That's the reason I wanted to own a media company. It would be they just decided they're not making enough money from it, and they don't like the deal going forward. That's life. That's how business works. Sonny Hostin, embarrassing, moronic take. Every time I think The View can't get dumber, it actually gets dumber. A couple of other stories that are out there. Consequence, significant. Credit to Riley Gaines, Paula Scanlon, to many people out there, Jennifer Say, who have spoken out aggressively against men and women's sports. Trump got into office, signed an executive order, said this is over. The NCAA has followed that executive order. They have moved beyond allowing men to compete in women's sports so that Leah Thomas no longer exists. Now the Olympics have come out yesterday afternoon after we finished the OutKick show. The United States Olympic Committee came out and said men who identify as women can no longer compete in women's sports. This is eventually going to go, I think, to the Supreme Court because we're going to figure out what state law should be and how state law is impacted by the federal executive order. But I do believe this is a vote for sanity. This is something that 67% of Democrats agree with, according to the New York Times. And I think it's frankly the right call for anyone that is a sports fan. Elections have consequences. This is one of them, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Couple of other stories that are out there. It's crushing when I saw that Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, which aired, I believe, 1984-ish to 1992, one of the great sitcoms of all time. And I think we have a couple of pictures. In the event you haven't watched The Cosby Show, I understand because Bill Cosby has been charged with crimes since, that this show has kind of vanished in many ways. And if you aren't around my age and didn't grow up watching it, you might not have ever seen it. It's one of the great shows that has ever been on the air. And I was actually tweeting about this before, unfortunately, Malcolm Jamal Warner died in what is called, been said to be a drowning accident in Costa Rica. And I said, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And when I grew up, every sitcom had pretty much a strong father figure, often a very strong female figure too, a mom and a dad, a nuclear family. And so when I think about Jason Seaver on Growing Pains, Tony Danza on Who's the Boss, the Keaton father on Family Ties, Winslow on Family Matters, Bill Cosby on The Cosby Show. When I go through and think about all of the shows, Bob Saget on Full House, when I go through Tim Allen on Home Improvement and all the different versions of that show, and I think I had the team make a screen grab of a variety of these different sitcom dads that I grew up watching. And the sitcom taught you that, hey, one of the best things that a dad could do, that a man could do, was be a father and raise his family and do his best to take care of that family. That was ingrained and instilled in all of the shows that I watched in the 80s and the 90s. And if you guys want to keep flashing through while I talk all of these different shows that are representative of that era, I think a lot of people will remember them if you're around my age. And I was watching, actually, ironically, Outer Banks, which has a couple of pretty awful dads, among others. And I was watching it, and I was thinking, where are the good dads in pop culture today? It used to be that dads were very present. They were married to the moms. They were raising the kids. They, like everybody out there, was imperfect. Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You can run through all of these different shows. Every dad was a father. Every man was in that nuclear family household. Where have they all gone? What has happened in the culture that after about Modern Family, and there were a bunch of different kinds of dads on Modern Family. You had the old dad who was remarried. You had the young kind of kooky dad, Phil Dunphy, if I remember correctly. And you had the gay dads. But Modern Family, since about then, dad has gotten erased. There's still a lot of shows with very strong female protagonist moms. But in this era that we're in now, it's like we've erased dad from pop culture. And I just think it's wrong. I think there is a huge opportunity right now to go back and re-embrace fatherhood and say the best thing that a dad can do is get married and stay with mom and try to raise your kids to the best of your ability. I'm fortunate. I had a fantastic dad. I think my dad was a way better dad than I have been. I think I'm a pretty good dad. I think my boys, my 17, 14, and 10-year-old boys would say, hey, dad's done a pretty good job with us. I think my wife would be like, he's okay. But I've been married for over 20 years, and I think that it's important to send the message to young men that being a dad is the most important job that you could have. And being a father to your kids is the best thing that you can do, irrespective of whatever other professional successes you might have. Where have all the dads in pop culture gone? I think there is a real demand, not that I own a Hollywood studio or anything else, but to the extent that this circulates on social media and people end up watching it, bring some dads back. Bring dads back to the family unit and make shows built around them and the importance of dads. Because the data reflects that boys are struggling. Number one way that boys struggle, I think, is an absent father in the household. Young girls actually do okay, much better than young men do without having a father figure in the household. I think that's because they have a mom to aspire to and look up to, but it's really hard for a mom to do both roles, to be both dad and mom. And young boys suffer as a result. They don't know how to grow up into young men. They don't know how to become dads, because all of us emulate in some way our grandfathers, our dads, our uncles, the men in our lives. And when you lack strong male role models, you end up not a strong male role model yourself. And I think that's one of the flaws that we're seeing in society today. And I think sometimes in pop culture showing the importance of dads, that could actually be transformative and incredibly beneficial. Plus, I think from a business perspective, there's actually a huge demand for it. Now, my kids are too old for this show now, but I am told, because I'm sure the comments will reflect this, that Bluey in the whatever show that is, Adam, look up the Bluey show. There is a dad there that is tremendously helpful, and I think that that is something that can go forward and would make a lot of sense. Last Man Standing is the most recent, but that was Tim Allen back in the day, and I do think that that matters in a big way going forward. Show is called Bluey. I'm told there's a great dad there for little kids, the show Bluey. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about even before. Rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable, iconic classic show, Cosby Show, still great, notwithstanding what you might think about Bill Cosby's life decisions and potential criminal behavior after the show was over. Okay, I wanted to mention this. Adam, will you pull up, I don't know if we have a video of this, but a Ole Miss football player, a recruit, was killed in the Memphis suburban area here recently. I don't know if we have a graphic with it, but I want to scroll down and I want to just talk about this for a moment. I want to make sure that I get this kid's name right, because I was watching the video of his mom and his family talking about this, and it was just brutal for me to watch as a dad. And it is just, to me, so incredibly sad what has happened to the Memphis area and the way that all this has gone down. Will you get Adam, pull up his name so I can make sure that I mention his name, because I want to make sure that I honor this kid. When I was a kid growing up in Nashville, there was a huge rivalry between Nashville and Memphis over which was the better city in Tennessee. And wherever you grow up, if you grew up in Dallas, I bet there was a huge rivalry between you and Houston. And if you grew up, his name is Corey Adams, is the kid who was killed in the Memphis area. And you know how this is. In a state or in a region, there are often big rivals. I'm sure Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati go at it in Ohio. I know LA and San Francisco go at it in California. There's kind of this battle over which is the better city to live in the state. And I saw this story, and it just made me feel sick to my stomach, because I don't remember the last time that anybody debated Nashville versus Memphis. Nashville has made not all perfect decisions. Should have never shut down Opryland, for instance. But the city of Nashville has shot into the stratosphere, where now people argue, hey, what's better, Nashville or Charlotte? Nashville or Austin, Texas? Nobody ever talks about Nashville versus Memphis. And Memphis has become, statistically, one of the deadliest places to live anywhere in the United States. And the people who live in that area deserve better. They deserve to be safer. They deserve to have police that protect them and police that put bad guys behind bars. And it's long past time for Memphis to be as good as the average Memphian is. And I know, because in my neighborhood, just in my neighborhood where I live in the Nashville area, the number of people who have moved their families out of Memphis because they don't feel safe there anymore, staggering. If you have the means to leave Memphis, everybody is trying to get out of that city because violence has taken over. And I say this as a Tennessean, it is long past time to get cleaned up. Whether it means, hey, we need to put state guard on the streets. The murder rate is out of control. That area needs to be cleaned up for all the great people that live there. There is way too much death happening, way too much murder, way too much violence. And when I saw this kid dying unnecessarily at a young age because it's not safe there, it made me sick to the stomach. So I want to mention that. And I believe we have his picture, if we can put that up. This is Corey Adams, who would have been a freshman at Ole Miss this year, killed, another innocent victim of violent crime in Memphis. And I'll tell you this, I was down in Memphis recently because my middle son was playing a sporting event. And it was this, I'll tell you when it was. It was the night that Tennessee played Kentucky in the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. So sometime in March. And I forgot my charger. And I couldn't believe all of the security around the hotel in what was supposed to be a nice area of Memphis. And I went to go get my charger. I went to go buy a charger, and I filled up my car after that basketball game ended. It was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And a bunch of people said, boy, I can't believe you're out after dark here. And I'm thinking to myself, what has happened to this city that going to a gas station after dark, people think you're crazy to do it? It has to be cleaned up. It has to be made safer than it is. And frankly, as a Tennessean, what has been allowed to happen in Memphis, I think, is utterly unacceptable. Okay. Another couple of stories here. I believe we have Aaron Rodgers, who went on with Pat McAfee and said, hey, I'm thankful that I'm on the right side of history. Remember when it was super controversial and all the sports media came after Aaron Rodgers because he wouldn't get the COVID shot, because he questioned whether or not the COVID shot made sense, particularly because he had already had COVID. Here he is telling Pat McAfee, hey, I was on the right side of history. Remember when this was considered controversial? I give credit to Aaron Rodgers. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for him to meekly just acquiesce to the people in positions of power and say, I'll take that COVID shot. Instead, he said, it's not worth taking. Listen.
But as I sit here today, I feel like I'm definitely on the right side of history, and went through a lot of shit for an opinion that was my own, personal belief based on what was best for my body. And in an era of censorship and quelling free speech, I'm glad that I took the stand that I did, and welcoming more and more people to the side of freedom and free speech.
He's right. He's right. And everybody wants to pretend that they never were dragging Aaron Rodgers over this. Unless you have gotten all 12 of your COVID shots, you have actually come to agree with Aaron Rodgers about the lack of efficacy of this shot as well. Okay, final story of the day, I'll be back tomorrow with all of you, is Mamdani says, which one is this, Adam? I think this is Mamdani either saying, hey, what's the point of prisons, or I don't believe in private property. Let's play that Mamdani clip here. This is the Democrat mayoral nominee in New York City. Listen.
My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home.
Okay, I got a take here. I don't care who's elected mayor of New York City. In fact, instead of trying to save New Yorkers from Mamdani by trying to get in Andrew Cuomo as an independent, or get in Eric Adams as an independent, or Curtis Sliwa, whoever it is, I think if New Yorkers want to elect Mamdani as their next mayor, we should let him. If you want to elect a communist, if you believe that taking over grocery stores makes sense, if you think that prison is unnecessary, if you think that in issues of domestic violence we should have actual counselors called as opposed to police officers, if you believe that private property shouldn't exist, if you believe all these things are true, go vote for Mamdani. And then I think it will be a significant drag on Democrats in the midterms next year. New York City is a place that is really fun to visit. But if they have bought into the idea that capitalism is not something worth supporting and they want to put a communist mayor in, I think they should have to reap the consequences of their electoral votes. And I don't know why all the sane Republicans and rational Democrats should try to protect the left wing from the guy that they want to represent them. I'm not going to fight to stop morons from making awful choices when it comes to the mayor decisions that they have to make. I don't think Republicans should rescue Democrats from the consequences of electing a communist. All right, several different questions out there. You can go hop in the YouTube comments. I do not look at these in advance. So I am reading these. These are grabbed by the team, and I'm going to react to them in real time. Is there going to be an Elizabeth Warren statue in the Native American Walk of Honor? All right, that's a great line. Pocahontas putting Elizabeth Warren yesterday. If you watched the show, you heard me say, hey, we should have a Native American Walk of Honor. All these Native American heroes, statues lining alongside of everybody else. I think it would be fabulous to see. I think it would be great. Put the Elizabeth Warren statue in there. You can put her in a headdress. You can even give her a tomahawk and let her celebrate her Native American heritage. Very, very funny comment. Well done, Ehan 485. I am so tired of hearing the phrase, I deserve. In the real world, you get what you earn, not what you deserve. Sparty 837, I'm guessing he is a Michigan State fan. I agree. I think we should spend way more time talking about earning things than what you deserve. Nobody deserves anything. There are a ton of different directions that everybody's life can go. As soon as you take ownership for your individual life decisions, good or ill, you can start to have a tremendous success in this country. And it's very easy to blame other people, and it's very easy to argue about what you deserve. Go earn it. I agree, 100%. What you will find is if you stack together a lot of strong performances over time, may take years, the results are really good. Everybody wants a microwave opportunity. They want something to happen instantly. Most people don't become instant success stories. It takes a very, very long time. Work for it. I like that. Question, Clay. For $1 billion cash, no tax, would you live your life as a dwarf with no legs, with a Barry White voice for 5 years straight? Then after the 5 years, you get $1 billion cash, no tax, but you go back to your normal height, but your voice will permanently sound like Mickey Mouse for the rest of your life. No, I'm happy with where I am. I don't need more money. $1 billion would be nice, but I don't want to have no legs for 5 years. I can't really do anything. I don't know how many more years I'm going to live. I'm 46. That would take me all the way to 51. Then I get my legs back, but I go back to my normal height, but I sound like Mickey Mouse the rest of my life. Again, no, I would not change anything right now about my life. I'm very happy. I like my jobs. I wouldn't. I don't need money. Kids are happy and healthy. Look, the thing you can't buy in life. You know the only thing you can't buy more of in life? Time. It's true. I never really thought about it when I was young. The only thing that you cannot buy, you can be the richest man in the world, you're going to die. You can't buy time. So use it in a way that makes your life better and that you will be proud of whenever that day when you have to say goodbye might come. Hope it's a long time for me. Hope it's a long time for you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I'm Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.